Set 9 has almost all of its support released, and Granfia is the new Stoichea ride line introduced in this set. In today's video, we're going to be doing a review on all of the new support brought out for Granfia. What's up, card fighters, and welcome back to the Prime Vanguard channel. I hope you're all having a great day. I know that I am, and I'm very excited to get into today's video, which will be reviewing our new Stoichea ride line for Granfia. Now, Granfia, along with two other ride lines for Dark States as well as Brandgate, has been revealed for Dragontree Invasion, which is only a few months away from release, and I decided why not make another review video on the new support coming out. I actually like the cards I'm going to showcase you today, and I have a few deck build ideas I want to talk about as well, and I'm very excited to bring this to you guys in this video. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the Granfia support first before we go ahead and talk about deck builds and ideas. Starting off with our ride line, we have the new Grade 0 Granfia, which is Kind-Hearted Prince Granfia. This is just the cutest thing ever. I swear to God, I'm probably going to put all of this in all of my Stoichea decks. It's your typical D-Series starter, nothing special here. For our Grade 1 Granfia card, we have Lord of the Future Granfia, who has the following effect. Auto, when this unit is rode upon by Genius Wise Wolf Granfia, call up to one plant token to your back row center rearguard circle. So this essentially is Granfia's version of the Grade 1 Aurora card, the Slumbering Grade 1, which will essentially help you set up for your next piece, which is the Grade 2. Our Grade 2 is Genius Wise Wolf Granfia, who has the following effect. Continuous Vanguard Circle if a plant token is on your rearguard circle. If your soul has Lord of the Future Granfia, when you would ride a Grade 3 card with Granfia in its card name from your ride deck, you can ride without discarding a card from your hand. This is just a free ride up to the next grade. I actually really like this so far on the rest of the ride line because everything has been free, and this just improves your card advantage so much better. And finally, we have our star of the show, which is Lavien Lord Granfia. He has the following effect of Act, Vanguard Circle once per turn, cost, Soul Blast 1. Turn all the plant tokens on your rearguard circle into Plant Gauge. Call a Noblesse Rose token to your back row center rearguard circle and pull off your plant gauges on that unit. Auto Vanguard Circle. At the end of the battle, this unit attack cost put one or more Noblesse Rose tokens or plant gauge in a total of up to 5 cards into drop. Choose one of your rear guards and it gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn for each card put into drop for this cost. If you put 3 or more cards, stand that unit. Now some of you might be wondering, what's a Noblesse Rose token? Don't worry, I got you. Another new token unit introduced to the Stoichea Nation is the Noblesse Rose token, who has the following effect. This represents a Noblesse Rose token and cannot be put in a deck. Continuous Rearguard Circle. This unit cannot be moved to other circles, and if you have a Vanguard with Granfia in its card name, all the following are active. First, when your plant token will be placed on Rearguard Circle, put it as a plant gauge of this unit instead. This effect is mandatory. Second, this unit gets power plus 5,000 for each of its gauge. Third, when you would retire your Rearguard for a cost, if this may be paid by retiring a plant token rearguard, you may pay it by discarding a plant gauge as well. Alright, so now that we've discussed the ride line and we've discussed the new cards for the ride line, let's go ahead and discuss Granfia himself. Lavien Lord Granfia, being the new kid on the block, has 3 really strong things going for him that I actually like about this deck so far. The first part about him is that he's cheap. It's only 1 Soul Blast to really do everything that you need to do. The rest of the skill is either free or it comes through your Noblesse Rose token for cost, which is perfectly fine because that means that in future deck builds, I can see a lot of players taking advantage of the more expensive Stoichea cards to play in this deck, since our Vanguard only costs 1 Soul Blast. And as we've seen in our ride line for the Granfia ride line, we don't have to worry about costing resources because we're not discarding from our hand. We have a 1 plant token on board, which means that we can preserve the cards that we've already put in our deck for later skills such as this. Having a really cheap Vanguard with a simple skill is always amazing. And in this case, because the Noblesse Rose token isn't just some generic plant token that doesn't do much, and she actually does a lot and has a lot going for her, this is actually really strong. Secondly is multi-attack. Multi-attack, as everybody knows in Vanguard, is like the B&B of every single deck. Getting that 1 extra attack is really good because it's 1 extra card you take out of your opponent's hand, it's an extra level of push. With the Noblesse Rose token, as we just discussed, and for the restanding skill, you get it at the end of the battle that this unit attacked. So that means that at the end of the battle that Granfia's attacks, drive triggers have been revealed, so forth and whatnot, you have the option of choosing to get the extra push with Noblesse Rose token if it's worth it. And the cool part about this is the fact that your Noblesse Rose token is in the back row center rearguard circle behind your Granfia and it can't be moved, which is unfortunate, but it makes sense. And because it can't be moved, You can essentially use its skill to have it become a really strong booster with a minimum of 20,000 power because you need 3 for the restand, turning your Vanguard into 33,000, which is a magic number against any deck in Overdress. That's a plus. The second plus is the fact that this unit passes on its power to your restanding unit, which is great too. It's not like the it's not like Radalina Momoke where it passes all the power it got from its skill and trigger effects. It'd be really good if it did that, but unfortunately it does not. It's just the power it got from putting stuff into the drop, which is fine because if you add just plus 15,000, you're already turning any of your grade 3s or grade 2s into 25 or to 28 against your opponent. On top of trigger effects, you're already hitting again another magic number, which means that this deck has 2 solid attacks going for it, which is always a plus. And the third part about this card that I enjoy is the fact that because it's so simplistic and it works with the plant token archetype, you can put a lot more space and play a lot more of those counterblast heavy plant token cards in the deck to make it work, which means that this is actually this can potentially be a very hardcore early game aggro deck that takes advantage of the plant tokens early to move it in for your Noblesse Rose token and win later. That's really cool too, but it's just an idea. Now that we've discussed Granfia and the Ride line as well as the Noblesse Rose token, I have some support cards I want to showcase for the deck. Granfia got 2 noticeably support cards for it, and they read as the following. The first one is the HORUHORU Mushroom, which is Act, Rearguard Circle, cost, put this unit into your soul. Call up to 2 plant tokens to Rearguard Circle. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Granfia in its card name, choose one of your rearguards, it gets power plus 5,000 until end of the turn. This card is perfect for Granfia. Literally couldn't be more perfect. And the cool and ironic thing about this thing is the fact that this card also works out very well for Aroa too. So I like the generic synergy for this. And the main thing about HORUHORU Mushroom is that obviously this card is a 1-card fix all for your entire deck because it moves itself into soul, so that's the 1 Soul Blast for Granfia. You get 2 tokens, so you're only 1 behind for your Noblesse Rose token, and it gives power to one of your units. So the extra 5k will turn any one of the unit cards that you have in play into 15 or 18k number, or just or 13k if you have a grade 1 if you're in a bad situation. And on top of the 15k gets that unit, no matter what happens, HORUHORU Mushroom when you activate it will always turn any card you put on with the Noblesse effect as well into a magic number. So this automatically becomes a plus and potentially a 4 in the deck for how free it is as well. Our next Granfia support card, we have Ran Orange. So Ran Orange has the following effect of auto, when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, you may call 1 plant token to Rearguard Circle. Auto, front row Rearguard Circle, at the beginning of your battle phase, if you have a Vanguard named Granfia in his card name, you may call 1 plant token to Rearguard Circle. So this is actually pretty neat, because like I stated with the HORUHORU Mushroom, and on top of this card is your 2-card plant token turn, basically every single turn. Because on place you'll get 1 plant token, and then it always in the battle phase will give you another plant token in the front row. And this is really cool too, because that means that in the main phase, as long as you meet the requirement of just having 2 plant tokens in there, you can use your plant token gauges for any cost you want. As we've seen with the Noblesse Rose token, because the plant gauges count for rear guards for any skills that do retiring, cards that retire 2 or more, or would get rid of entire boards that you have to refill with hand, work out really well now. Because now instead of just eating away at your board and you have to call back from hand over and over again, your plant gauges all stay in one spot, and this way you can measure it through there without, basically using your hand too much. That's a huge plus. And then the front row rearguard skill is a plus as well, because it's something that happens every single turn. So as long as you always have this card, you're guaranteed to get 1 plant token, and you can just focus the rest of your support on getting those extra 2 plant tokens to meet the minimum criteria of your Noblesse Rose token. Now that we've discussed Granfia and the new support cards that have all been released for it, I actually have a few deck build ideas that I want to showcase, and this is currently the one that I'm thinking about playtesting when the deck comes out. So definitely tell me your guys' thoughts and comments below on what you think about my Granfia deck build, but I'm going to go ahead and showcase it now. Starting off with our deck's triggers, I'm playing 8 crit, 3 draw, 4 heal, and obviously 1 OT. I think that 8 crits for Granfia works out really well for him, because Granfia, like I stated earlier, is going to restand that 4th attack and help you get the extra power and the extra push. So these critical triggers will help guarantee that. And with another card that I'm playing in this deck that I think works out, I think will work out very well with it, the extra criticals and 8 criticals like this will just make sense later on. The Stoichea OT, because it's just amazing. And the 3 draw triggers. So this deck is, in my opinion, going to need to see key pieces. You're always going to need to be able to generate plant tokens every single turn. You're always going to be able to see certain cards to make sure you can, reach that goal of hitting those plant tokens. And then obviously you want to make sure you're hitting your Persona Rise and your win con for later on in the deck. So I think that 3 is fine. And as for the final triggers, they're heals, because heals are amazing. I just chose to do the 2-1-1 split because I feel like Granfia is going to be coming out, the Alamut Star is going to be coming out, and that new Brant Gate card, the blue robots, they all gain critical and do multi-attack. So depending on where the meta goes for the future of Vanguard, I might see these cards taken out entirely and just play like 2-2 split of these because of how decks are becoming so advanced now. Moving on to our grade 1s, I play 4 of the normal PGs Custodial Dragon, 4 copies of Performing Petal Dianthia, 4 copies of Adhesive Thread Mutant Actia Sticky, and then 2 copies of the HORUHORU Mushroom. For the PGs, you obviously can do whatever you want with them. If you want to play 1 copy of Elementaria, go for it. I just choose to play the Custodial Dragon of 4 for the sake of this video. And I don't have Elementaria in real life, so that's why. Next up, we have Performing Petal Dianthia. I think that Dianthia is amazing for this deck because of the support that I'm going to be showcasing later. You can play her out. You always have access to your HORUHORU Mushrooms because your Vanguard needs to do 1 Soul Blast to bring out your Noblesse Rose token in case you lose it or in case you need to activate it early. You can call out some of the cards we have later on in the deck that will be more helpful. Once you see the cards I'm playing later, Dianthia will just make more sense. But essentially speaking, I play her for the boosting effect as well. Magic numbers is going to be super important in this deck because you want every single attack to count and drain your opponent's hand as much as possible. Because again, you're only getting 2 big attacks. Those other 2 attacks, prior to using Granfia's skill, are just going to be base power via other card effects. So Dianthia turning herself into 13 means that any 10k put in the front row will automatically be a magic number against our opponent. Actia Sticky. So I'm using Actia Sticky because in this deck we are going to be generating a lot of plant gauges. I can see it. You have the HORUHORU Mushroom next to it, which will give you 2 plant gauges per turn as well. So this essentially is a card that we can always activate, not for free, but we can always activate any single turn because we're always going to have something that's giving us 2 plant tokens that allows us to be retired, draw another card, and get power. And as your Noblesse Rose token read, any card that can retire a plant token, you can use your gauges for that instead. So this doesn't interfere with our board, helps us get more card advantage and more power, a firm plus. The HORUHORU Mushrooms, as I've discussed, this is a 1 card fix all for Granfia. It moves itself into soul, gives power to your target card, and gives you 2 plant gauges. I would play this set more, but for right now, I want to see where the deck stands at when I actually start playtesting it and give you my ideas on how I feel about the mushroom later. That's it for grade 1s. Now that we're moving on to the grade 2s, I actually have only 2 grade 2s in this deck for right now, which is the 4 copies of Propoplin Raphulus and the 4 copies of the Ran Orange. Both of these cards are just fast token generators. Your Raphulus generates 2 tokens in the early game, which means that, like I stated in this video earlier, if we play the Roroa ride line or the Granfia ride line, we can use this to rush. Because again, our Vanguard doesn't cost CB, so there's no point in our opponent really damage denying us because we don't really care, and this can take advantage of your counterblast well. Your Ran Orange, same thing. This card is, I feel like it's going to be, this card is a must for your Granfia deck. The fact that you're getting 1 plant token guaranteed every single turn this card exists on the board, while it does make itself a target for skills and attacks, at least you know that you have a free 2 card call for your plant tokens, meaning that that 3 card minimum of your skills becomes a lot simpler to acquire and meet because of these 2 cards right here. Finally, we have our grade 3s and our order cards to the deck. So there are actually a few interesting orders that I want to showcase and play for this deck, and they work out really well with our deck's win con. So for the grade 3s, we naturally play 3 copies of Granfia, Persona Riding is broken, and then for my last grade 3, I'm playing 2 copies of the Roaming Prison Dragon. Now, Roaming Prison Dragon was interesting, but this card fulfills the criteria I was thinking about for this deck. Roaming Prison Dragon, if you don't know, it has a simple effect of if you use an order card for the turn, you get to call it back. You get to activate 1 of the skills listed on this card, which is gain 10k or gain 1 critical until the end of the turn, and if you alchemy, you get both instead. That is huge because that critical trigger means that you're going into your main phase with a +1 critical unit, and while it is at 5k power, keep in mind that our Granfia and our Noblesse Rose token give power onto the unit that you stand with the skill at the end of the battle. So that means that you gain trigger effects, you gain power effects from Noblesse Rose token, and this unit will always have a critical. That is really strong. I think that Roaming Prison Dragon being a callback card as well, something you can always see at any time, means that you can also use it with your Actia Sticky if you want to retire it before activating your order card to gain some resources back as well. I just think that Roaming Prison Dragon is a great win con for the deck based off my personal opinion and what I know about it so far. And for my order cards, Tearful Malice and in the dim darkness, the Frozen Resentment, these cards are just resource management cards. Even though the deck is free, you always want to have some form of resource management in case anything goes wrong. Tearful Malice, because like I stated, we're going to be generating a lot of plant tokens. And because we're going to be generating so many, I feel like we can take advantage of some of those. And because we have a card in the deck that can be called back later in the game, if I have to get rid of the Roaming Prison Dragon because it's not serving any purpose on board, I can replace it with anything else I'll draw from the Tearful Malice, as this card will give me a draw, a soul charge, counter charge, and help me get back the resources I've lost. In the Dim Darkness, the Frozen Resentment, so the reason why I'm playing this over Spiritual Body Condensation is simply for the fact that this card helps you filter out the deck for some of the pieces you might need to see in the drop zone. As I've stated, Granfia, I can tell, is going to be a deck that is going to need its key pieces on board a lot, because if you want to start generating those plant gauges or those plant tokens and you're calling a high amount every single turn, you're definitely going to want to be able to make sure you have the right card to do that. You're going to make sure you can access that grade 2 that can CB1, get you 2 plant tokens, Ran Orange, your Diantheas in case you're playing its control matchup, you need more board. All of those cards are going to be super helpful in getting you those extra pieces that you need for pressure, plant token generation, and extra offense. Now that I've showcased the deck, the ride line, I've talked about the support, this is my winning image for Granfia. So to go ahead and explain what's going on in this picture, we have Granfia on board, Ran Orange, Dianthea, Noblesse Rose token, Actia Sticky, and Roaming Prison Dragon. We used our In the Darkness to call back one of the units here. It could be your Dianthea, it could be your Actia Sticky, or anything. We use that to generate an extra plant token or an extra body on board for our Noblesse Rose token, who is at a minimum of 3 to 5 plant gauges. Our Roaming Prison Dragon has his additional critical on top of him for his effect, and our Actia Sticky has the 5,000 power buff to it, as well as Dianthea naturally. All of our cards are hitting for magic numbers, as even in the oranges too, being a 23k swing, the Roaming Prison Dragon, although it's an 18k swing, we're going to hold off on using our Actia Sticky until the next battle to make it scary. Because our Granfia is going to attack, we'll do our drive checks, and then we'll apply everything left over to our Roaming Prison Dragon to make that card a lot scarier as well. I like this theoretical winning image for the deck. I think that this is all very reasonable and not resource heavy whatsoever. As you see, the CB that we've used was from the turn of calling these cards out. So therefore, we haven't used too many resources to the point where we're losing on advantage, but all of our cards here are generating something or serving a purpose to not only get resource, but power as well. Our Roaming Prison Dragon being the final win con of the deck is great too, because since it's already got the crit on top of it, if you wanted the bonus of Actia Sticky early to get that maybe 15k card out of their hand because you want to pressure more, you can do that as well. That is an option. And Granfia will restand it. It'll get an additional 15 to 5 times 5 is 25. So we get an additional 15 to 25,000 power on top of this, on top of trigger effects, making this card essentially swinging for over 35,000 power or 30,000 power for +1 critical or more. As we've seen in the deck, we are playing 8 criticals, so this is not an unreasonable feat to mention. I like this idea for Granfia. I think that it's going to work out very well in the future, and I'm very excited to see what will come out later. Granfia is a deck that is off to a really amazing start. From free resources, great pieces, as well as a synergy with all of the Stoichea support, I'm very excited to see where this deck will go in the future, and I can't wait to showcase it on the channel when it drops as well. But that's it for today, guys. Card fighters, keep card fighting, stay safe, and have fun. Peace.